Okay, so step 3 of the process is to put everything together now to start the fermentation. What you're going to need for this is to take your cup, fill that full of warm water, and basically by that we don't mean hot, we don't mean cold, but we've run the kettle for 30 seconds, 45 seconds just to give us something warm. We'll use that in a minute to rinse the bag out to get the last bits of the juice out. You've got your sterilised pail, you've got your racking cane to stir. Depending on the kit you've got, we're using toasted oak here. Your instructions will tell you exactly what you need. And we also have bag number 2, which is bentonite. So the first thing to do is to take the lid off your juice and to carefully lift that over the edge of the pail and pour that in gently, being careful not to splash everything. Okay, so when we've got as much as we can out of there, we'll take the cup of water and just pour that into the bag. Don't worry if it doesn't all go in there, it's just to give that a good rinse. Put the lid on gently and just run that water around the edges of the bag. That'll just get the excess out, and then we can tip that in and make sure we've got all of the last parts of that. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to take the packet of bentonite and just open that and tip that into the wine, or to the grape juice should I say. Once that's tipped in, we're now going to use the racking cane just to give that a very good stir. Make sure everything is distributed properly. And then we're also going to take the bag of toasted oak and pop that in as well. Now this will take a bit of stirring and it'll tend to want to sit onto the top, but don't worry about that for now. So we'll give that a good stir. Make sure everything's completely stirred there. Okay, so once everything's stirred and distributed properly, we're then going to top the bucket up with water up to our 5 litre or 1 gallon line that we measured out before. I mean, it all depends now. I mean, it depends on the temperature of your water. You may need to put a bit more warm water in, you may need to just put cold in, but we'll fill this up now and fill that to the 5 litre line. Which is there, and that's sufficient there to start the wine. So we'll just give that one final mix just to make sure everything's been brought together. You will find, as I said before, that if you're using the oat chips they'll tend to sit on top, but don't worry about that, they'll drop out through the process. And there we go, we're ready now to pitch the yeast, or put the yeast into the process. Okay, so we're finally ready to pitch the yeast. You can see the yeast sachet here. What we'll do with that is just open that up, and then the idea now is just to sprinkle this across the top so we get an even distribution, and there's no need to stir this yeast in at the end. We just want that to sit on the top. And that will now start to ferment. The important thing before you put the yeast in there is to make sure that the temperature of your grape juice is between 21 and 24 degrees. Now we know that that's right, we can feel the temperature is about room temperature. If you're not sure about that, just leave it for an hour or so to adjust to room temperature. If your water that you've put in is very, very cold, then you're obviously going to need to wait a little bit longer. But we were sure, we had some warm water in there before, and our temperature wasn't too cold today. But once your yeast has been pitched, you can then take your lid and put that lightly on top. You don't need to press that down, because as the yeast ferments the grape juice, it will give off carbon dioxide gas, and that gas needs to escape. But if you just leave that on lightly, and you now need to leave that in a warm place within your house between 21 and 24 degrees or 70 to 75 Fahrenheit.